Hey, this is Rend Smith. Lately, here at Shoresides, we've been taking a close look at an area in the north side of Wilmington with low life expectancy. It's a community of residents who are mostly brown and black, some of them immigrants. We've been looking at the transportation disadvantages they face, and it's a health determinant. According to researchers, that's not just a challenge in Wilmington, but across the state.
So my name is Lennon Caro. I am moved down to the Charlotte area when I was around 13 years old. I came from Newark, Connecticut. My parents are immigrants from Colombia, and moving to the South was an interesting thing.
Lennon teaches part time at UNC Charlotte and works with the Camino Research Institute, which published the North Carolina Latino Strengths and Needs Assessments in 2025.
We traveled around North Carolina. We went to Lumberton, Nashville, Wilmington several times, and got in touch with the Latino community there. And Winston-Salem, Greens, we went all across Raleigh. We went all across the state, and we ended up collecting over 3,000 surveys. We took that data, we sat down, analyzed it. We interviewed close to 50 community leaders that are based around the state to get their perspective on how are things going with the Latino community.
As part of that work, Lennon and his colleagues discovered something striking about the positions some of the drivers they interviewed have been put in. Welcome to Shoresides, where we tell stories about coastal North Carolina.
By 2025, I sat down and wrote for 8 months, analyzing data, transcribing interviews, and analyzing them to kind of come up with this. I still think of it's a short, brief 90-page document that kind of gives a statewide perspective. It's got a little bit of everything, right? I mean, in the survey, it's kind of based around the social determinants of health. So we ask a little bit about transportation access, a little bit about healthcare access, insurance access, employment. So, it kind of gives, we sacrifice depth for breadth, right? We just a little bit of everything to kind of get an idea of like, for these million or so Latinos that are living in North Carolina, what's the vibe? What's going on here? There's lots of things that are not surprising. I call it no shit data, in which like for people who've been involved with the Latino community for a while, they understand that there's insufficient bilingual staff in medical fields. There's insufficient insurance access. There's insufficient dental resources for low-income Latinos. For the undocumented population, resources are very limited. Related to transportation, it's interesting because, you can look at the data and you can kind of see that, wow, a lot of people drive their own personal vehicle. I think that was the most popular answer, but I want to say close to 70%, over 70% of respondents said that they primarily rely on a personal vehicle for transportation. Now, the interesting thing is we also asked around documentation status, and close to 30%, close to a third of participants in our survey disclose that they're undocumented. So the interesting thing is, I think close to half or over half of all 3,397 respondents in our survey disclose that they don't have a North Carolina driver's license, right? And this kind of highlights issues or conundrums that a lot of Latinos face in North Carolina, especially if they're not documented, in which this is a state that's not very public transportation friendly, right? It is a state definitely designed around the personal automobile vehicle being your primary mode of transportation.
That conundrum has a history, and it's written into state law.
I don't know if you know this, but for a while in North Carolina, until I want to say 2003, you did not need a social security number to get a driver's license in the state. You could use your ITIN number. That was a valid form of documentation, I guess, even for a technically undocumented person to get a driver's license in the state.
Lennon points out how after 9/11 and the anxiousness that followed, the feelings of some Americans who weren't recent immigrants began to shift.
And you see most commonly news stories of like an undocumented immigrant was driving drunk and got into a car accident. Those kind of stories caught fire in the media. And you start seeing this attitude that, undocumented immigrants here in North Carolina are a danger. So they finally made it required to get a social security number here. And that created a lot of consequences for the immigrant community. I look at the transportation issue for the particularly for the undocumented community, as something more in the policy and legal side of things, right? Because you have this iron chain of policy in which they're not documented. There's no way they can get a driver's license. If there's no way to get a driver's license and you're trying to survive in North Carolina, it's you have to work. And in order to work, you have to go drive, right? So it puts undocumented immigrants in this difficult position of like they want to follow the law, but they're put in a position in which they have to break the law to feed their family. And it's very difficult for me to conceptualize because the worst thing that can happen is like I get stopped and I get a ticket, right? But for these undocumented immigrants, they get stopped and it could be they won't be able to see their family again or be with their family again, right? So when I did interviews with multiple undocumented immigrants, they always talked about that constant stress of anytime they go in a vehicle, they might be arrested, detained, and start the whole deportation process. And basically everything they constructed here in this country for their children, for their family, goes down the drain.
Lennon also noticed something else. Some of those he talked to had found a fix, even if it was an expensive one.
So yeah, we did notice that rideshare is pretty up there in utilization. But when we interviewed a lot of these, mostly Latino women, I started to notice how gendered sometimes Latino families are structured, especially undocumented immigrant families. The typical setup is this way. Dad goes to work constantly. Mom stays home and takes care of the kids. The issue is, however, sometimes this family only has one car. And typically, if anyone's going to have the car, it's the father. So I'm wondering, I'll be interested to see in the data how gendered it is. Are these mostly Latino women or is it a mix of both? But it doesn't surprise me that they're doing everyday tasks because that's what we see too. It's like there's not sufficient vehicles from the family, so they have to find other ways to transport themselves to do basic things like buy groceries, go to work, or even go to their medical appointments and things like that.
So it turned out that, at least in the North Side neighborhood we've been looking at, Lennon was right. When we contacted Sarah Conlisk, a data scientist at Lyft who's been helping us understand how people, particularly working class people, use the app, she found that Spanish language use was more common among female riders. Among 2.8% of female riders had their phones set to Spanish, compared with 1.6% of male riders. And these riders, compared to other Lyft riders in Hanover County, needed the app more. Trips taken by riders whose phones were set to Spanish were 50% more likely to end at educational destinations, 40% more likely to go to workplaces, and 14% more likely to go to grocery stores. Local public transportation, it turns out, has a response.
So my name is Brianna Dietrich. I'm the Public Relations Manager at Wave Transit, also known as the Cape Fear Public Transportation Authority.
Essentially, it's rideshare, but as a public utility for everyone.
RideMICRO is a point-to-point service. It's a form of micro transit. So it's if the city bus and a rideshare, like Uber or Lyft, had a baby.
RideMICRO got its start with a concept grant from the state's Department of Transportation experiment money that let Wave launch what was, at the time, the first multi-county microtransit service in North Carolina. Now it's available to anyone who wants to get from point A to B on a budget.
You can do that by booking through our online portal that's available on our website, wavetransit.com. You can download the Wave or the RideMICRO app. So it's RideMICRO by Wave Transit in your Apple or Google Play stores, or you can call into a dedicated dispatch line that's answered locally. It's never someone's personal vehicle, so it's always going to be one of, I think there's 2 or 3 vehicle types. So I think one of them's a Ford Transit van. It's kind of like a white panel van, but it's made for passengers and not luggage. And it's typically a white van, or we have a Chevy Suburban. That's like great big, beautiful, shiny black SUV. I joke that's like our Uber Black. That's our RideMICRO Premium.
But luckily, that SUV doesn't come with high-end prices.
So as far as cost to the actual consumer, so the person who's booked the ride, who's taking the ride, our customer, it is going to cost them $2 per person per one-way trip. There is no surge pricing. There's no extra fee that gets attached. And then why someone might choose RideMICRO versus Uber or Lyft. First of all, it's often a lot cheaper, right? So that $2 ride is definitely appealing. You also know that it's going to be a professional driver pulling up in a marked vehicle. There's cameras and recording on those vehicles, so security, where that's not always the case in someone's private car, like someone using an Uber or a Lyft. Whether they're a multi-passenger van or a traditional car, like an SUV like the Suburban, they're all going to be wrapped with this bright blue vinyl that says RideMICRO on the side. So there will never be any question that the vehicle coming to pick you up belongs to this program. It's not going to be me in my Honda Civic. It will not be.
In a lot of ways, it all sounds like a throwback. Professional drivers who show up in marked cars, taxis. But unlike taxis, these rides come with public accountability.
There's a lot of access to customer care, whether that be helping you set up your trip or hopefully not, but remediating something after the fact should there have been an issue or concern during your travel. We are available to you and we have to be. So because we're a public organization, we cannot hide, right? My name first and last and my desk phone number, my email's on the website. So we can offer you what is hopefully affordable, hopefully an affordable service, that $2 trip, and it's going to remain consistent. If we change our fare, there's a huge process involved in doing that, including like fairness and equity analysis. The vast majority of our customers are individuals who are living in households with 0 cars or 1 car. So these are not folks who can or have regular access to driving a personal vehicle. So over the last several months, give or take, on average, we have seen soaring ridership. I'm pulling up what we just did last week in June. So last month, in May of 2026, we had 3,267 trips. 2 months ago was our highest ridership month ever at 3,739. So in July 22, we did an expansion. We've added vehicles to many of the zones, so there's double the availability, and people have taken advantage of it. So as we added those vehicles, we saw our ridership nearly double. And then to compare May of this year to May of last year, it's an increase of 125.6% of trips. It is our highest ridership. It's our most successful program at this time. It's also very cool, right? So now we know there were at least that many more people who would have taken a trip had it been available to them. Will that pan out forever if we just kept throwing money at a program? There's probably a stopping point, right? We have not yet hit it.
All of that said, one thing to highlight about RideMICRO is the micro part.
It is imperfect, so we go lots and lots of places, but not literally everywhere. You can book a trip from any point within one of our 4 zones of operation. Zones are northern New Hanover, kind of downtown Wilmington, our other transfer station, Forden Station, that's behind the Costco, all the way up to just the bottom of Castle Hayne. There's southern New Hanover County, which is sort of Monkey Junction, Walmart area, all the way down to the end of the town of Curry Beach. And if you are trying to go from Castle Hayne to Curry Beach, we'll say, you can do that using just Wave Transit services, but you will have to transfer between vehicles and services to make that jump because of those zones of operation.
To see what this service actually feels like to use, 2 producers, Aaleah and Day, they set out the plan, book a ride to a dental appointment. We didn't tell them anything about the app. For Aaleah, the journey started with a walk, a soggy one.
Okay, now it's definitely raining, so I'm gonna have to take a bit of a hiatus just to get to my starting point on this RideMICRO journey. I'm walking through this North Side neighborhood in the Brooklyn Arts District. I see some houses that do have cars, especially the newer, nicer, remodeled ones. But the luck continues. I finally made it to the starting point, which is Camposeco's house. I made it just before the pour down really started to hit. And we're gonna go ahead and scoop up this RideMICRO, right? Yeah, Yeah.
At Dave's house, they get online and check out the RideMICRO website.
Oh, what's that, Day? You found a cool new feature.
Ride book, they head to Paget Station to get picked up. In terms of the section of the north side we've been focused on, it's their closest area for accessing a RideMICRO service.
So we're just out here kind of just sitting along with a few other riders. I get a little overstimulated with loud noises, so it's nice to have these headphones on. No, I haven't gone on the ride yet, but I think it's a really cool service that is being provided.
Then the first snack.
Okay, so this is Aaleah and Day popping back in here. And actually we found out some news. So we actually probably won't be able to make it to our dental appointment at all, because the place that we scheduled our dental appointment at is outside of the service area.
They didn't even realize the dentist's office falls outside the two RideMICRO zones, 1 and 4, that overlap with Paget Station.
That looks like it's the rural area of
Yeah.
New Hanover County.
It takes some time to master the interactive app.
Yeah. So those are the different zones. We're not getting to that appointment, are we, Day?
No, it doesn't look like it. So we may have to do some more research and see where we can go so we can make this successful.
Let's do that. We'll be right back once we go back to the drawing board and find something within our zone that we can travel to. You're listening to Shoresides. All right, so just jumping back in here with another update. So we're still trying to find another location. So we said, oh, well, then how about a grocery store? This is what it's like downloading the app and trying it out for the first time. It is quite a process of figuring out where you need to be and where you can go. And that seems to be taking more time than we thought.
The weather is really getting to be a factor at this point.
Yeah, I'm hot, I'm sweaty. Luckily, right now, we're inside of the station. But imagine being stuck outside in the heat, not having water or very limited water, maybe some kind of disability and having to do this.
Yeah, exactly. And so the service for zones 1 through 4, those run on weekdays from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then on Saturday, they run from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And on Sunday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So you get service all 7 days of the week, but they do operate within those different zones. So yeah, we have until 6 o'clock. We got to get to the store and get back. So we're going to order this ride and we'll let you know how it goes.
I also think it's really important to mention that there is an option to look up your grocery store or location, but it's always a good idea to double check with the address because the app is being reviewed and edited constantly, and it's possible that some of these locations haven't been named.
All right, so I just ordered and it says our vehicle is going to arrive in 22 minutes. So we're going to be getting a ride out to the grocery store, which probably would normally be about a 15 or 20-minute at most ride. So just in the wait time that it takes for the RideMICRO to get here is about the same amount of time it would take if you did have a car. Now we wait, and we'll be back in a minute.
What's the ETA, Aaleah?
Now it's 22 minutes. It said 22 minutes at first, and then it said 29. Now it's back at 22.
I feel like we have spent this whole day waiting.
All right. Now it's 11 minutes away in a gray Chrysler Pacifica. That's what we're going to be looking for.
It's probably going to be coming on the other side
It
because
probably is.
It's starting to sprinkle again.
After all that planning, the ride itself feels great.
We're in a RideMICRO. So there is a time period that you do have to find your RideMICRO and get into it. It gives you about 3 minutes. So you do have to make sure that you're nearby when it arrives. So it is kind of like it's like a shuttle style van. So it's not a bus. It's just kind of like a minivan. It's nice and comforting, and it's really nice inside. It's cozy, and the drive is pretty nice. All right. Here we are. We made it to the Lowe's. Now we have just a little over an hour to get back, so we're not going to go inside the store and buy anything. We just wanted to come to it and see what it was like doing the RideMICRO. Now, the easiest part of this whole experience was the ride itself, was just sitting back, getting to relax, and letting somebody else take the wheel. So it was a lot just to book the ride and figure out where we could go, and then to get to the starting points to where we could get picked up to get to the pickup location. But we're here at the store. The ride was smooth and easy. Our driver was great. So now let's go back and we'll book the ride. Just reordered our RideMICRO, and it says that it's 16 minutes away, which isn't bad. Hopefully he can just come directly back to us. That was our ride. We are back at Paget Station, as you can hear. And so it was about a 15-minute ride to the Lowe's and a 15-minute ride back. Now, we didn't have to wait too long. The driver essentially just had to turn back around and pick us up. He did have some other passengers in the car at that time. We were all going to the same location, so I guess it worked out in our favor. So I do want to note, when you are booking a ride through the RideMICRO app, your pickup location and your drop-off location has to be within a particular zone. So we were going to Lowe's Foods. Now, when I first just typed in the address itself, it said that it wasn't in our zone, and it wasn't giving me the option to choose to select a RideMICRO. But when I typed in Lowe's Foods and address, the full address, then it popped up, and then it showed that it was in our zone, and it gave me the option to select the ride. So just make sure that you do that. The app is fairly simple to use. You just have to kind of toy with it a little bit to figure out those quirks. And other than that, I feel like we've accomplished a lot today. We did our RideMICRO. We did it on this cloudy, rainy day. Right now it's not raining, luckily. But how do you feel, Dave?
I also just wanted to add that there are some settings that you can use within the app. Like if you wanted to plan your route ahead and not wait the day of, or like, I guess, moments before, it would kind of relieve a little bit of a headache. It looks like you can add a favorite, you can add your work, and add your home. So those are just some easy steps that would kind of, I guess, you wouldn't have to type as much.
What do we click?
Do
this
that.
Little clock icon right there or something?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, you click on it, and then there goes a search engine where you can then search for your location.
Which we highly recommend, because you do have to be in the right zone at the right time to get to where you want to go. So that's great information, Day. Awesome. How do you feel about this whole experience?
Well, I guess I'm really glad I was there with you, because I get a little overstimulated with new tasks, and maybe other people can relate to that. I think two heads are better than one, and I think we really pulled it off.
I would say in total, we got here around 5:30, and I want to say we started this whole venture around 3 o'clock. So in total, if you're not planning out your ride, set aside a couple of hours for yourself because you're going to be figuring some stuff out if you have never taken this before. So is it worth it to use Ride Micro? Now, if you are just thinking, hey, I want to have a night out on the town or something like that, or you're trying to get to any of these outskirted places, I would just say maybe you probably have been better off ordering an Uber, especially if you can shell out those dollars. Anything else you want to add, Day?
Yeah, so I know we've been talking a lot about the app. I just wanted to emphasize that if you don't have a smartphone, or I know that some of the settings are a little limited in terms of accessibility, it does allow you to zoom in. But if it would be easier for you to call the phone number, that phone number is 910-861-0661. They will be able to help you.
Awesome. Alrighty. Good luck out there. Hopefully you get a ride to where you need to go and you make your appointments on time. This is Aaleah, and this is
Day.
and we're out.
So there you go. A good ride, a buggy app, one addressing a system that's far more broken. Like Brianna says, isn't perfect. But you could imagine a world where there's more funding and fewer zones to figure out for public rideshare. A socio-technical solution where cities get to break their car dependence and help their most marginalized residents live their lives with one less stress. The technology, the infrastructure, it's there. It's just about how we use it. Special thanks to Aaleah and Dave for being such good sports. Brianna again.
These are people who are getting to school, work, to go to the movies with their friends, right? To get out and see their loved ones, to experience the community, to go to county parks, to go to city events, to get to work. So it's not just us looking at numbers climbing, saying, oh, this is more successful, we're performing more trips, but these are also people getting to engage in their lives and their community more easily in a way that wasn't available to them prior to that increase in investment.
This is Shoresides. Thanks for listening.
Learn more about Shoresides at shoresides.org.